welcome back. We are back again, live, finally, and we're going to today design an awesome website. We're going to use a ton of really cool techniques. This is one of the most new age, modern, trendiest UIs we've done in a really long time, and I'm so happy to be able to bring this to you. So let's just get started. All right, let me just make myself smaller and let's just get started. Say hi in the chat, everybody. Welcome back. We are finally live again, and this is what we're going to be designing. This is the UI that we're designing. It is a complete website UI which uses a lot of really cool unconventional techniques that you don't usually see. The most stunning part of this whole thing for me is always going to be the way we've arranged things around the layout of everything. Usually you build a UI with a title, a description, and then a call to action button and maybe a couple of other elements, but the way we've positioned them is really unconventional, but it works. There is a lot of really cool aspects that we need to cover, including the call to action button, which takes inspiration from the logo, and the whole site just becomes one interesting UI. Why is this not scrolling? Hold on. Alright, so this is the UI we're going to be building out today, and I'm so happy about it. It has a lot of really cool elements that I'm happy to talk about, including this grid, which it covers the different elements, covers the different aspects that are related to this UI. And again, having a complete image cover up the whole grid, and then covering up the whole grid cell, and then a colored background with a little bit of text is just one of the most tasteful UI design element components we've done in a really long time. All of the different sections that we're building out in here today are in their own rights very new and very modern in terms of the new and modern designs that we see these days. This is going to be one of the greatest live streams we've ever done, and there are so many elements that I'm super duper happy to talk about. The plugins that we're using haven't been talked about the way we're going to talk about them before. We're going to take a look at Lumi, we're going to take a look at Content Reel, and we're going to take a look at a lot of really cool Figma features that we didn't take a look at in any previous live streams. All of these are going to be just awesome little elements that we build out today, and I'm so happy. Just say hi in the chat and let's just go. If you don't yet have Figma installed, what are you doing? Go to your browser, type out Figma downloads, and that's going to lead you to figma.com/downloads. This is where we get our Figma downloaded from. You're going to get your desktop app for macOS or Windows, whichever device you're on, and then let's just go back to Figma. So this is going to be the home screen that you're greeted with. Again, you can click on plus at the top to create a new design file, or just access a file that you have been working with from before. I'm just going to take a previous file, and we're going to build out the complete UI together. You can just click on plus and then click on a new design file if you want a new design file, but this is just the simplest thing ever. If you don't have a page with you, you just click on adding a new page, and that gives you a completely new page. And let's just get started. So the very first thing you need here is obviously your frame. Let's just build out a frame. So you're just going to click over here, click in the center, and that's going to create a simple frame with you. The major concern here remains, how do you adjust the width and height for it to be able to be usable? So the width and height needs to be changed, of course. Let's just change it out really quickly to 1280 pixels of width, and then we're going to give it 832 pixels of height, because that is the height of the laptop container that we're using. One of the reasons it's really important to have this exact height with us is because if you have this exact width and height with you, especially when you're starting out, it becomes really easy to have this outer onion skin with your completed prototype. When you're presenting this to someone, it gets really easy for you to present this UI with a really nice laptop body attached. All right, let's just get started. The first thing we're going to do here is obviously add a background color. You can change the width here as well, but I'm just going to keep it as it is. So the color scheme for this is actually quite simple, sober, and just looks really pretty at the end. This is the way it looks like in actual application, but the current background color is even more simple. So this is just FEFF E5. This is the simplest hex code of a background color ever. Even if you don't have a lot of experience with colors, just type out FF E5. This is the background color that we're using for this UI. Just simple stuff. Oops, I feel like I've FE5. This is background color that we're using. Very simple, light shade of green, and just comes together beautifully. Looks really pretty, looks really gorgeous. So the font combinations that we're using for this UI are actually the stunners of the show. A lot of this UI comes together because of two different elements: typography and alignment. Typography is really unconventional, set on the current sans serif trends, and just plays into the strength of sans serif, which is to just be big and bold and take its space and just be there. I feel like the typography for this one is incredible. Fustat with outfit is the typography that we're using. Let's just add a little bit of text here and have it say transforming visions into stunning spaces. I want to get titles and typography out of the way just so we don't have to think about it again, especially because the font we're using, Fustat, has not been used on this channel ever before. So this is a new one even for me. Transforming visions into stunning spaces. Let's just type it out. Transforming visions into stunning spaces. What's interesting is I have either never used Fustat, which is the font that we're using today, or I've used it quite often. I'm not even sure when I used it last. If I did, I don't remember. And it's going to be really silly if I just go back after this stream ends to one of the old live streams and find out that we were using this font all along, because this is just so gorgeous and so reminiscent of a lot of the fonts that we use on this channel. Even though a lot of the exact typography kernings are a little bit different, this is still quite a nice font, and I love the way it just comes together really quickly. Again, font weight is always going to be bold for the most part while we're putting out the titles, and the color is going to be a really dark shade of green that works really well with the background, which is 003617. Now that we have this background color with us, we can start adjusting the width of everything individually. So we're just going to make sure the line height is really small, and obviously we have 3 lines with us, so you can adjust the line height a little bit and then make sure things are close together as they need to be. Transforming visions into stunning spaces. And again, I want to talk about text boxes and the weird thing that happens where sometimes you're positioning all of them a certain way and adding a little bit of an auto layout, hoping everything just comes together perfectly, but auto layouts try to stick a text box to a certain space and it becomes a really big issue of alignment. Let's just go over that a little bit and try to see how we make things look good even without auto layout. So this is going to be a layout which doesn't use auto layout as much as others, and still we manage to make it work. So the biggest play on this UI is the alignment after the typography, of course. And so now we're going to take a look at how to get typography right, especially because we're getting into the second element of this UI. All right, let's just make sure this fits. And also we're going to add a description, add a call to action button, just get those things working right off the bat. Fustat is a font that we're using for this UI, primary main font, and yet it isn't the only font. The second font that we're using for this UI is obviously Outfit. Let's change this to OUTFIT. Outfit is the font that we're going to use for this one now. Alright, so we're just going to reduce the font size. Let's just bring this down to, let's just keep on going down until we're sure it looks good. So the reason I want to be sure of the font size that we're using here is because since we're going to go really small, you can't mess it up you have to make sure it fits, you have to make sure everything aligns, you have to make sure things just look good together, and that doesn't happen unless you're very, very oddly specific with your font sizes. So whenever you're attempting a weird UI which isn't really, really conventional in terms of the ways UIs come together, it's really important to make sure you don't just stick with these 16, 15, 20, 24 automatic Figma skips that it provides for you. You also go to some of the numbers that are usually skipped in these automatic Figma font size lists. You go up to 17, you go up to other different sizes which haven't been used before. So let's just get the other font. You know what, let's just go back to Fustat. I just noticed this right now, and it is a good description font. Like, you could do a little bit of description with it. Now here's something really, really important. When you go ahead and make a little bit of a text box, when you change the size and bring it down to a really, really low number, it's almost always better to go with a darker shade than the other font sizes that you're using, because it's already really hard to notice the presence of this font in itself, and so it would be better if it would be a little bit more bolder and more on your face, which is why I'm just going with pure black. No filters here, nothing whatsoever. Let's just go with pure black. No issues on it whatsoever. And we're back. So now that we have a title with us, we're going to start with our description. And again, the description is already being built out right now. I'm just going to copy the text that we're using over here, and I'm going to paste it right here with the exact same style. Again, I'm going to reduce the width in here, and it's really important to get your alignment and everything working right, because the strong points of this UI coming together are that it does not stick with your average run of the mill alignment description sort of layout where your text and description and call to action button are all aligned together. It plays on misaligning stuff and not aligning stuff perfectly, and yet pulling off a really, really cute, really, really amazing vibe. So I feel like this is really important in terms of where you position it. You can't go towards the right too much, you can't go towards the left too much. You have to find the sweet spot, and it comes with a lot of really nitpicky instinct and experience. And now that we have this button with us, let's just also add our call to action button. The reason the call to action button is interesting, and the reason I want to get it made first, is because it is an exact replica, if not very similar, to the logo of this brand, and it just takes really heavily from that. So we just have to be sure of them just being the same and working well together. The way we're going to get logos or icons or any vector drawings for the most part in all of these UIs is we're going to go to the Iconify plugin in Figma, search for the up arrow, and let's hope something good comes up. I feel like this is good enough. Let's just get it out, and also we're going to get out a circle, and we're trying to combine the both of them together just so they look good together. This looks good, and I know we could have drawn our own circle, but I just feel like it's easier to just get both of these SVGs combined into one single group and work with them, especially if they're really, really relatively similar. Let's just make it a little bit smaller, put it right here, make sure to reduce this number, so this is the stroke width. And now that we have an icon with us, I feel like this is a little too thick. Let's bring this up, otherwise it's just going to look wonky. Let's just bring this up to a point where it looks like it at least has the same width. And now that we have these sorted out, we're going to scale this icon down. Now there are two kinds of icons built in themselves, and I want to bring this up because we haven't ever talked about it. There are two kinds of icons which you'll come across when you're looking for icons for any of your UIs, one of which is going to be an icon where when you click on the vector, you're going to come across the fact that it has been built with strokes. Thing with stroke built icons is you can change the stroke width and then change the thickness wherever you are at whatever size you are. And the other way an icon is built is if it does not have strokes, if it is actually a filled out shape in itself. So this is a shape in itself, and you can't actually change the stroke to decrease the font size. You can add a stroke and then maybe change it to outside and then increase its size, but there is no way of reducing the size using stroke. You can only press on shift and scale it back down to make sure the size is smaller. And so we're just going to deal with the two different kind of icons in two different ways when we scale this icon down. So we're just going to select this frame, make it smaller, and obviously since this is a shape based icon, it's going to scale down. Since this is a stroke based icon, it's just going to stick to wherever it was previously. It's not going to go anywhere. I think another reason for that might be that we have a frame in here. I feel like it just stayed where it was. Anyways, we're going to bring it here, but you'd still notice that it's a very, very thick font and a thick shape, and you need to make it smaller again. So we're just going to change it using the stroke. Both of these are completely acceptable ways of making icons, and I feel like it becomes really interesting when you start to build out your own icons. You might do a series on that at some point. If you guys have any questions related to UI UX design, make sure to leave them in the chat. Make sure to subscribe, because we come here live every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m, 2 p.m, 5 and 8 p.m Indian Standard Time. Do not miss it. 8 awesome UIs every single weekend. What a great deal. Again, all of the images, everything that we're using here, you can find on the Discord group link in the live chat. Do not miss it. And this is where the tricks get interesting. So we want this logo to now be at a 45-degree angle from the normal straight text. So you're just going to, you can either do it with the corner handles on one of these, but it's going to be highly inefficient in the sense you're going to have to deal with 0.6 minus 0.5, all of these weird numbers. A simpler way of just doing things is make sure it's set to 0, press the shift key and then start to rotate it. You're going to have to rotate things in like 15-degree increments exactly, and that simplifies life so much in my opinion. Let's stick with 30, or either we're going to stick with 30 or we're going to stick with 45. I feel like 45 is way more angled, way better for our current use case. Let's just stick with 45. Don't worry if it looks weird right now. We're going to get it fixed, make it as big as we need to. Primary way of adjusting the width in here is the stroke, and it does a really good job with that. So we're just going to reduce the stroke now. Really simple stuff. Let's just put this right here. And also if you see, and this is a trick that I sort of learned myself, like this isn't something you will find in the global documentations and stuff like that. If you have a shape based vector or a shape based icon, you want to reduce its size but there's no stroke to help you, and the size is absolute, you're going to add a stroke on the insides. To increase the size, you're going to add the stroke on the outside. To decrease the size, you're going to add a stroke on the inside, and then you're going to make it the same color as the background color, and then that is going to thin down your border for you. So this is a sneaky little trick I learned. The use case asterisk for this is when you put it out and place it in a different frame, this weird stroke always sticks out. So if I'm putting it in a different background, I have to change this stroke to have a different background color. That's just the one rule attached to this shape always. And as long as you take care of that, I feel like you're going to be fine. All right, and now that we have this sorted out, we have two different things. You know what, let's just make it a little bit bigger and then we can start talking. I feel like we just need to make it this a little bit thinner as well. Let's just go with 1, it's fine. And then add a little bit of a stroke in here. Done. And with that, we have this icon ready with us. And it's good if it's prominent. It's not a bad thing at all, because it just sends you a reminder back to what your logo was. Which reminds me of an interesting theory I heard. If you have the same exact shape, if you have the same exact visual in multiple places, even though it isn't a logo, even though it's established that this is a button, it still reinforces the brand value, and it still does a really good job at promoting the site, promoting the brand, which is the point of a site in itself. Alright, now you might notice every single time I type something out, even though I'm just typing out whatever it is, the last alphabet always becomes capital. This isn't something I'm doing on purpose. It is the way we've set up this text box. So we're just going to go right here, change the text box to have small case, and then that's just going to be the gold standard. We're going to increase the font size. Let's bring this up to I would bring this up to like 28. Let's bring this up to 28 and obviously make it a little bit thicker. I feel like bold is good enough, and one of the main concerns here is make it, at least from a visual standpoint, make it thick enough so that the thickness of this stroke and the stroke inside and the stroke of the L and the stroke of all of the letters looks similar enough to be believed as if it's of the same brand. So this can't be really really thick and then this can't be really really thin. That's just going to put things out of the way they're supposed to be. I feel like I'm going to make this thicker, especially because this is the main brand. This is where you're going to highlight things, so it does make sense to have everything just be really really prominent. And with that, we have our main elements ready with us. We have the brand name logo, which we're going to group together and shift them down a little bit. Shift them around just until it looks good enough. And then we also have our title, description, main call to action button ready with us. And we're back. So now that we have built out these elements, let's just talk about the navigation bar and the main call to action button and just get these elements sorted as well. Alright, so the very first thing we need to take care of is this link group. So we're just going to add a text box, just duplicate this right here, and then type out 4 different words: home, about, services, and testimonials. Home. Make sure everything is set to auto width, otherwise it's just going to look out of place. Copy and paste it a bunch of times. Home, about. And then we're just going to duplicate these once again. Services and testimonials, which is great. And now that we have these links with us, we're going to group them together, add an auto layout, and then just, you know what, you don't even need to add an auto layout. Just make sure to click on the blue button and it just does that for you. It just spaces things for you, which is the only reason we need auto layout right now. And then we're just going to group them together because obviously we need to move them around together now that they have been spaced really really perfectly. Make sure that the whole group is, make sure they're grouped, and then make sure the group is perfectly aligned in the center by clicking on this button, align horizontal centers. And now we're going to add a call to action button that's just really really wordy and basic, which is contact us. We're just going to make a really simple contact button because all sites need a simple contact button in case all else fails. We're going to change this to, let's go extra bold because this is where we're going to go all out. If there's any place we're going to go all out, this is it. And we're going to add a layout. Make sure there's spacing at the top and bottom. We're going to add a stroke because we obviously need a stroke. Here's something interesting. When you're adding a stroke for buttons like these, you will always notice from a visual point of view, there's more space visually at the bottom than at the top. And this is sometimes because fonts will leave out a little bit of space at the bottom of texts for accommodating some fonts like G in small lowercase, which sort of overflows down to the bottom. And so if you don't have a lot of elements which are going down at the bottom, it can visually feel like there's a lot of extra space here. Now since I don't want a G in here and I don't want anything to be lowercase, I'm just going to make sure manually that these have the exact same amount of spacing. You can either adjust the spacing using the text box itself, or you can just go ahead and change the spacing for each individual top and bottom from inside of the auto layout. Both of those are completely valid, nice ways of just making things look really cute and nice. All right, this is the way we're just doing things now. We're going to add a border radius and obviously align it in here perfectly. With that we have three different with that we have the let's just get this out of the group because it's starting to confuse me a little bit. Let's just group them together, make sure everything is perfectly aligned, and this looks good enough. With that, let's also start adding the image that we're using in here. So I think the image that we're using here can also be found on our Discord group, which you can find in the description, but all of these images are from Lumi. So we're going to go and open up the Lumi plugin and then go get all of our images, because that's my new favorite place for getting images now. Let's just go ahead back to Lumi and search for plant. Now, you know what, I'm searching for a chair with plant. Daggle says hi, hello, welcome. We're designing a complete UI design of the most modern, stunning UI website ever. The first image is the one we're using. Just search for chair with plant and then remove the backgrounds by clicking on tools and effects, and then just get your image in here. I feel like this isn't the same image, my mistake. This is the image that was the first image. I feel like that was a different image in its entirety, and I don't want to mess that up at all. This is the image that we were using for our testimonial section, and then we're going to add this here as well. If you guys have any questions related to UI UX design, make sure to leave them in the comments, and we're also going to go back and get Lumi once again and search for chair with plant. I feel like the image that we are looking for is going to be close by. This is the image that we were using. It's by Beroy, and since I haven't enabled the remove background feature, I'm just going to import this image as it is, and then we're going to take a look at the second way with which you can remove image backgrounds, which is with Figma AI. Let's just get this image in here, and it does take a little while, but at the end everything just comes together so beautifully, completely gorgeous. This is I believe the negative side with Lumi. When you're importing an image, you can't really do much else, and it's just really difficult. I feel like it just was here and it went somewhere. Let's open up Lumi back again. It is a little bit slow, but in the end it's just good. Let's just get this image out here. Where did my image go? This was the image. Was it? Where did my image go? I feel like we had that rectangle selected and that sort of messed things up. Anyways, we might have overwritten the previous image, which is fine. Let's just bring this image down, scale it back down, and now we're going to go to Figma AI and remove the background. So the Figma AI is going to remove our background, and it just does it so beautifully. I've stopped using background removers like Photo Room and whatnot at this point entirely, because Figma is doing such a brilliant job at removing backgrounds. Speak of the devil, I feel like it just removed my trees, which is terrible news. If for some reason Figma does not remove your background, you can try the background remover, which is inbuilt with Lumi, and it works so much better. Because and I'm just going to provide a visual representation. If we remove the background with Figma backgrounds, it's just getting rid of the plant, and if we don't, the inbuilt UI remover and background remover in Lumi is much cleaner in terms of the quality, and with that I feel like we just got rid of it. Why are you malfunctioning? Let's get rid of the background, and also, so this is what Figma's background remover does. But where did my image go? Where did you go? I have no idea where it's adding images. This is horrible. Again, why are you not loading? This is my giant struggle with, I feel like we have to select a rectangle. Hopefully. What is going on? Why are you not inserting yourself in the middle of this? Where did it go? Why are you not working? This is me and pure struggle. Why? Let's just try to close up Figma and hope it works again. Again, this is the sort of thing that just happens all the time, and you just have to live with it. So we're just waiting for Figma and Lumi to work. It does take up a lot of space while loading things up, and I don't think the old RAM on this device is cutting it anymore. Let's go back to Lumi. Hope it gives us our image, because the last time we checked there was no image. We're going to search for chair with plant, and hopefully that'll give us our image. This is the image that we're talking about. You know what, we're going to get rid of the background here as well, but we can't rely on Figma's background remover, because as we just saw, it was also cutting off the plants. Why are you so slow? You know what, while this is loading up, we can just get the image from our UI, which we already have, and then you can download these images from the Discord group as well. Wow, this is really slow. And now we have our image with us. So Figma's native background remover will give you funky results in the terms of cutting off plants and whatnot, but if you use the inbuilt background remover with Lumi, it does a pretty good job. I'm just getting the images that we have in the Discord group as well. Let's copy this image, paste it back here. Make sure to join the Discord group, link in the live chat. If you guys have any questions related to UI UX design, do not be afraid to leave them in the comments. And now we're going to send it behind our text. So we just have to right click, send it to the back. And with that, we have with us title, description, image, call to action button, all of the main elements you need in the hero section, just about ready. You can press the Alt key and see the amount of spacing that you have, and I feel like this is just the perfect amount of spacing. Looks good, feels good. We're going to get rid of the duplicates, which I have created for some reason. Alright, and with that, we have these elements just ready with us. The next part that we're building out is these customers. So basically we just need to add a couple of circles just to get started. Put this one right here, make it smaller obviously, bring this down to 75 and then duplicate it a bunch 3 different times, and then add them all to an auto layout just so they're perfectly spaced apart, or you can use the blue button as well. Add a stroke of white just because we need to. Let's make sure the spacing and everything is set perfectly. And obviously we're going to import a couple of images. So you can get these images from Lumi itself. I'm just going to get these images from the Discord groups. Just make sure to join the Discord group. I'm just copying and pasting these images because Lumi seems to be working really slow for me today for some reason. With that, we have these images with us. Make sure to have all of the 3 images with yourself. You can have any images you want. 34k plus customers is what we're typing out here. So we're just going to go ahead, create a text box, type out 34k plus. Was the K capital? Was it small? I feel like it was capital. It was capital. Plus customers. So we're just going to reduce the font size in here. Let's bring this down to 48 and then we're going to change it to say customers. I'm going to zoom in, copy and paste it once again, change the text to say customers. And we're going to reduce the font size by a whole lot. just make sure it looks equal to this title as well. And with that, we're going to make sure the spacing and everything is set perfectly. Again, you can change these colors if you want, doesn't really matter, and we're just going to let them be as they are. Let's reduce the font size just so everything looks perfect. Let's reduce this to 18. Good enough for me. And also we're going to group all of these circles together. So let's just press Control and select all of these, Control G to group them. They need to be in a single group because we need to move them around as one singular element, offset by the title by a couple of pixels, and then this is going to be offset by a whole lot. The alignment here is technically offset in itself. The next section that we're building out is a really cool grid, which I'm so happy about. Let's just build this out really quickly. It says our areas of expertise. We're going to type it out. Our areas of expertise, and also we're going to change the font size. Let's just place this in the center, and then we're going to build out a bunch of these frames. So we just have to make it a little bit bigger. Let's change this to 250. And we're back finally. Let's also let's also complete this grid. Let's just copy and paste it, and this is going to be an 8 by 8 sort of grid, and then just duplicate the 4 of these, sort of group them together, and just make sure the spacing between and the spacing at the bottom is the same exact number. We're going to add a fill just so we can see what is going on. Change the color just so everything is just visually just visible, and then make sure the spacing and everything just works right. Let's change this to 21, and hopefully that works. If it doesn't, you can always just select all of these and work with them. Let's just select them, make them smaller. Obviously align them in this, obviously group them together and then align them in the center, otherwise everything is just going to collapse on itself. And now we're going to start adding all of these images. Before I do that, I would like to point out here that this pink and this image has a shade of pink as the overarching color, and this is also the pink from our color scheme. This has a overarching golden shade, and then this has the yellow color scheme. This has a really bright blue section which stands out truly, and then we have the blue from our color scheme. This has a really overarching blue green section, and then you have blue over here and green over here. These are very intentional color choices, and they're made so that everything just stands out and looks good together, and that's going to be our primary goal in here. So we're just going to go back and get all of these images. I'm not opening up Lumi to generate these images because for some reason Lumi doesn't seem to be working with my whole setup today, but you can just get all of these images directly, download them from the Discord group which we have in the description. Let's just place these right here. I feel like we might need to adjust the size, especially if you're shifting the files. Let's hope everything fits together, and I feel like it does now. The border radius for these is set to 15, so we're not going to sort of mess with that too much. Change this to 15 back again, and now we're going to change the colors as well. Again, I'm just going to place this inside of, what is the name of this frame? This is frame 3, so we need to make sure this is inside of our frame, just so it doesn't exceed the space that we're using. Make sure this frame is set to inside of frame 7, just so everything is just perfectly aligned. Very, very simple stuff. Just take the exact same frame, put it inside the frame that you think it should be in, and now that we have this sorted out, we're going to get our colors in the same exact working order as I talked about here. So we're just going to get a really, really light shade of pink. You can choose them yourself as well, or you can just get them from the exact hex code that I'm using. The hex code that I'm using for today is FFB8B8, and then the yellow that I'm using is a dark shade of gold. And then we're going to reduce this, obviously. Let's change this to a little bit of an orange, because I feel like that's also in the tones here. And then this obviously has to be blue because of its perfect positioning. We have to reduce the brightness of it in itself. Just put this in here and also change this to green. Again, you can change these colors a little bit. They don't exactly have to be the exact shades that I'm using, but as long as the point remains the same, I don't think there's going to be a lot of problems you run into. Alright, your images might not be aligning perfectly, so it is time to just make sure everything fits inside of its container, because if it doesn't, it's just going to look really, really weird. And now we're going to add all of these different texts: furniture and decor, residential interior, custom renovation, commercial real estate. Let's get our text box in here, copy and paste it, place it inside of one of these. Just make sure it's inside one of these frames. The frame that I'm using is frame 4. Make sure it's inside of the frame, and we're going to reduce the font size once again to be, let's do 40. Let's make this a little bit smaller, and obviously we're going to make sure everything is center aligned perfectly. Let's reduce the font size some more because it still feels a little too big. Obviously the text is going to be changed now. Let's copy this text and also paste it back here to match our exact styles. And then we also need to have our main call to action button with us. So let's just adjust the line height, make sure it's perfectly in the center. Suhaib says, hey, hello, welcome back. Today we're designing a complete modern UI. Make sure to subscribe. We come here live every Saturday and Sunday at 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 and 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time, and design 8 different awesome UIs for your next UI UX design project. And since we made the outer container a little bit thinner, we have to make sure the stroke is the same color, so we'll change the green to pink. I'm just going to copy this and paste it right here. I feel like we just need to paste the whole group right here. Just make sure they're spaced perfectly, and also this needs to be a little bit thinner. Done. We're just going to group these together with Control G, copy and paste them once again, and then oops, I feel like we messed something up. We're just going to paste it in here. Don't worry if the stroke color of the icon seems really weird right now, we'll fix it. Let's just paste this right here, change the color in here. Again, if the spacing looks weird, just go to the, press the Alt key, make sure it's the exact same number. So this is set to 62 at the top, and we're just going to press the Alt key to get these numbers visible. And also we're going to change the text in here. Let's just copy all of this text and paste it back here again. Again, this is exactly what we've been doing for the other box as well, and we're just changing text now. This is the second section, completely awesome, something that you can reuse a bunch of times in any other project as well. The next section we're building out is our recent projects. This is going to be much simpler. This is just text, description, and also call to action button. So we're just going to get all of these elements from the top, and we are going to have to change a couple of elements in here, but at the end the result is just going to be really worth it. Let's just go to the top, obviously select the frame, shift it down, make it a little bit bigger. If something seems out of place, it probably is, get rid of it. And now we're going to change this to say our recent projects. Let's just align this right here, change this to say our recent projects. Reduce the font size, bring this down to 64 because that is what we've used for this as well, and these are equal level headings. Change this to say discover the timeless something. You can pause this video, type these out in your own time, and then I'm just going to copy this text and paste it right here to match the exact same style. Done. And then obviously we need to have the call to action button with us ready as well. So this is going to be left aligned completely. Let's just make this a little bit smaller, and then that's going to overflow to the next line, which is completely fine. Make sure the line height is just equal, make sure it's perfectly aligned together, make sure it just looks good together, everything is aligned nice and easy. And with that we have this section ready with us. The next thing we're going to do is obviously add these boxes. So we're going to create a new rectangle, add a really huge border radius, and then fill it up with an image. They're going to be at the exact same place where this is. Just make sure it's just perfectly spaced. Copy and paste it once again, make sure it overflows a little bit, and then we're going to group them together, put them right here. I feel like we put them in two separate groups because they were outside of the frame. Let's open up the layers once again, make sure they are inside the frame, group them together, because if this isn't inside the frame, it's not going to create the same exact group, and also it's not going to overflow out of the way we intend for it to. And then we want these images in here as well, so we're going to go back, open up Lumi, which is a risk because it's constantly shutting down on my computer all the time. And I'm just going to search for more furniture because this is a furniture site. Let's search for anything interesting which we can find. Let's just get the first interesting image. What just happened? Let's just get any of these images inside here. This looks good. And then we're going to get another image in here as well. Let's just wait for this to complete loading up. Hold on. And with that we have both of these images in here with us. So we're just going to switch out these images. If it looks weird, if you need to switch these images out, add an auto layout. This is a secret trick, and then just swap them out like that, and it just swaps together effortlessly. And then we're going to add this text description for each of these, and then also a slider. So let's add a text description. Let's just copy and paste it in here once again. Add a text description, have it say modern minimalistic apartment, modern minimalistic apartment. Add a little bit of the font size, change it to, let's do 28, and obviously this is going to be another different text box, and it's going to say luxury villa. Luxury villa. Let's just get them both to overflow to the second line, and also the font weight is going to be set to bold. Let's add a line in here. Make sure everything is perfectly aligned together. Add a border radius. Copy and paste it in here again. And we're also going to make sure it takes up the exact width as our image in here, just so it looks good with everything else. We're just going to take the exact same shade of background green which we've been using, and then make it a little bit more brighter, just so we have an image of what's going on. And then we're going to get this exact same shade of green again, and then change the colors once again. What do we do? Again, you can just go ahead and change this to the same shade of yellow that we have in the grid in here, and then let's just bring this to black. This looks good. And the next section that we're building out is obviously the last one, the testimonial section. Let's just make this a little bit bigger, and then we're going to build out the testimonial section. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to get an image, place it right here, and then we're going to make sure to add a border radius. Again, this next image is one that we already generated. If you've been following this stream from the start, you know we generated this image in the beginning of the stream, and we're just going to get that image in here once again, add a border radius, and go back to Lumi, because obviously we need the furniture with the chair image. Furniture with chair. It was actually furniture with, was it plant with chair? Was it furniture with chair? I seem to just be forgetting. Let's try plant with chair. This was the image that we were using in there, and obviously we need to remove the background, so have that enabled in here as well. And then we're going to put it inside of our frame, and while that is loading up, we're going to make sure this background is set to the exact same shade of green as the one at the top, just getting our color scheme tied well together, and then have this say what our clients say. The font size is obviously going to be 64, since that is exactly what we've been using in here and at all of the other elements as well. So we're just going to close this off, copy and paste it, put this right here. If it looks too bright or too out of place, you're always allowed to adjust this a little bit. This looks so much better, and I feel like this would be a great shade for the one at the top as well. Let's just switch that out too, and this is going to be the new shade of green that we're using. Looks so much better. And now we're going to add these sections for the different testimonials by each individual person. So we're just going to add a fill, add a description of what the person says, and then also add the name of the person. So we're just going to create this really simple frame. Make sure it's very well rounded off, just all the way, and then this is going to be a little bit darker. Place this right here, and obviously make sure this is a little bit darker, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a whole lot, just a little bit darker will do. It has to be a little bit green. I feel like we missed out on the green in here a little bit, and that's such a missed opportunity. Let's add a text box really simply. Let's type out text in here, and then we're going to style this, and then we can paste the text that we've already been using. If you don't have any text of your own ready, you can just pause the video and then type this text out on your own. Let's go back to the next section, copy this text, right click, paste here, and match the style. Let's reduce the font size some more, because I feel like 16 would be even better. And obviously this is going to be the text that we're using. Increase the line height. Sometimes it's smarter to increase the line height. Change the font size to 18. Looks good. And now we're going to add the name of the person which we've been using right here. So we're just going to go back to our text box, copy and paste it once again, and obviously And obviously this is going to say MR residential client. So we're just going to style this back again, change this to say bold, and obviously copy the text. So the font size is almost the same. You can increase it by a little bit, but it doesn't even matter, especially because you're going to make it bolder as it is. Place it right here, and then this is going to be one single component in itself, because you have all of these elements with ourselves. So we're just going to copy it once again, paste it right here, and obviously we're going to swap out all of these individual elements on their own as well. Again, we're at the home stretch of what we're building out in here, and I would also like to add that you can change the grain that we have to, let's say, a light shade of yellow, especially because we only have 2 testimonial clients, and then that's going to go down really well with what we're building out. This is the frame which we have. Let's change this to say light yellow, which we've already been using. You can also do the light blue, which we've been using. I feel like that would be a really, really cool addition to what we've already built out, and group them all so that they can be moved around as a single element. And now we're finally designing our footer. This is just really, really simple. Add a horizontal line, or HR if you're familiar with HTML, and then add the description which you finally need to add. One of the elements that we're adding now is the copyright notice, and I am so in two heads about which copyright year to add, especially because we have like 10 days from the year completing. So I don't want to add copyright 2024, because hear me out, this was a working site, you would need to have to change the year as well. And let's just go back to 24. Let's just go back to 25. It's just, I can't make up my mind, because in my own head I'll have to switch out the years for all of the sites that we've been using, and even though this is just a prototype, just seems weird. Let's just change this to Luxembourg Co, and then all rights. By the way, if you guys make your own UIs through any of these videos or through any of the things that we've done on the channel, make sure to post them online, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you are. My social media is in the description. Tag me there. It would be awesome to see what you guys come up with. It would be awesome to talk about everything you come up with. It would be incredible to have awesome discussions about this as well. Let's just copy and paste this once again, and we're going to type out privacy and also terms of service. So we're just going to duplicate this once again. Let's just say terms of service. That's just it. And make sure the spacing is good enough. With that, group them together, group these together, add an auto layout, make sure it's set to be perfectly in the center. And with that, check it out. We have our complete UI design with us. I'm just going to close out both of these tabs and present the frame, and then make sure the prototype setting is set to your exact device, which is MacBook Air, since 1280 by 832 pixels is the width and height that we chose at the beginning of the stream. So when we present it finally, we're going to have a layout which actually looks good. You know what? Let me just zoom it down. Let's zoom it down. How do you zoom this thing down? Alright, so this is our complete UI, and in the beginning we wanted to have an onion skin, and that we do finally. We have this wonderful looking UI. Again, the primary thing that works well here is the alignment that we're working with, and also the font that we're working with, Reltka all the way through. Looks incredible, feels incredible. I love the way it looks. It's just so awesome. Anyways, this is the UI that we've built out. Let's just share this to everyone watching. It would be incredible if you guys joined in the fun, and make sure to tag me wherever it is that you make these things, that you share these things. Just check it out, you guys. The live chat does have the link to this complete UI which we have just built. For some reason I feel like this just went darker when we're presenting it. No idea why. Let's just try to switch out the colors, see if it helps. I'm just going to present this again. Hopefully that simplifies things a little bit more. But anyways, this is the awesome UI that we've built on this stream. Thank you so much to everyone who joined me. I will hopefully be back at 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time and then at 8 p.m. once again to design 2 other awesome websites. We design every Saturday, Sunday. We design 4 different UIs every single day in 4 different streams. Completely awesome websites, 11 a.m., 2 p.m., 5 and 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Do not miss it. 8 different UI design projects for your portfolio coming to you every single weekend. I will see you at 5 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Till then, have fun, keep designing, and share what you built across social media. My social media links are in the description.